Good morning, Big Brother fans. It is Friday, July 11th, and I'm back in Indiana. I took a slightly earlier flight than I was originally going to, and so it's afternoon here in Indiana, but technically in Big Brother land it's not even 11 o'clock or not even 10 o'clock yet. So we're calling it good morning. I am driving home from the airport, and I would try to give you guys a little bit of a recap of last night's party as well as the premiere, which I went back to my hotel and rewatched as best I could last night. It was a late night. I fell asleep rewatching the premiere, and then I woke up and then I watched it some more, and so I don't think I actually saw the entire thing quite yet. I mean, I saw it at the event, and I watched it. Yeah, I'm not sure I caught every bits and pieces, and I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow description of the show because that's not what I do. But show premiered. I did went to the, well, let's do it in a little bit of a chronological order. So I talked to you guys yesterday before the party. I went to the party. Lots of fans there. Saw lots of people. For people that know online people that are like that you see a lot, like Sharon was there. Sharon Thorpe was there. Talked to her briefly a couple of times. And I'm going to say his name wrong, but some of you will know who he is. It's Athanimal. It's Ethan, but he goes by Ethanimal. He does YouTube videos, which Sharon introduced me to him. He doesn't listen to this, but he saw my podcast. He saw my post or something saying people should go to the show. He said, and he decided to try it out. So that was his first event last night, and he said he had a good time. I talked to him early in the evening, and then I talked to him at the end of the night, and he said he had a great time. So I was very pleased that he apparently at least went in part because of my encouragement, and of course, lots of people know who he is. There was lots of people being starstruck by being him. It's just kind of that cool thing where it's like, oh, I know who you are. So, and so they got there a little bit earlier than the house guests, the alumni and stuff that showed up. Other than well, no, actually, Azza came in at the same time with everybody else. So they all came in together like 15 minutes before the show started. So they all rolled in at like 7:45. Ish, between 7:40, 7:45. I posted all kinds of pictures last night and a few short little videos. And I'm trying to think the house guests that were there last night that weren't there the night before from last season would be Joseph, Cam, and Mackenzie. Those three were not there night before last. They were there last night. I did manage to get pictures with all three of them. And then there's just the same groups of other house guests that were there. It's interesting, I'm trying to remember if there was any from 2 seasons ago that came back. I can't remember now. But it was cool. The night was fun. Everybody watched the show as best they could. They had it on all the screens. It was fun watching everybody cheer. It was interesting watching people cheer for the different house guests as they were introduced. I will comment on the show itself, just a general comment, the comment about Isaiah. Of course, people have been talking about Isaiah because he's Mormon, he did the missionary work, but it turns out that he's kind of fallen out with the church, and he explained that in his intro video. So like, okay, because some people were like thinking, oh, he's going to be ultra conservative, and it's like, well, no, he kind of basically said the church and I don't see eye to eye. So that kind of, I guess, maybe lifted a bit of a load off some people's minds. But what else? What else about the show? As far as the show goes, so yes, the thing at the very end, Rachel showed up. All right, they put them in the house. They basically, and I threw it out there as a possibility. I'm not the only one. I said, what if it's not a murder that happens? What if it's a kidnapping? Because they showed a picture of the stage with just a single glass slipper on it, kind of a thing. And what happened is they put the house guests in 2 groups of 8, They are running around the house thinking it's so cool. Julie calls them to the thing and starts to explain about it. It's a mystery and expect the unexpected. And before she finishes it, the lights all go out and everyone screams and lights come back on and Julie is no longer on the stage and just her glass slipper or her shoe is on the stage. And so then the phone rang inside the house and one of the house guests picked it up and it's like, this is Julie, you've got to help find me. Quick, there are some maps on the table and get them and split them up into two basically competitions, right? So they split up into two competitions. One competition was to do one thing. One competition was to do the other. I can't even remember the details. It's the one competition, the person that won that got the opportunity to pick 4 people to compete for the head of household, I think, right? Yes, the winner of for one competition got to pick 4 people to compete for the head of household, and the winner of the other competition, they didn't know this at the time, they just knew they were competing. The winner of the other competition won $10,000. So Zach won his competition and won $10,000. He freed Julie. They actually finished with him opening a door and Julie jumping out in with them. So it's like, oh, Julie's involved in the comp actually in person. And then the other competition was won by, what's his name? Lenny? Not Lenny. Oh, I can't think of his name right now. He's the gay guy from Washington, D.C. Anyways, I don't have my cheat sheet yet, so I need to print out a cheat sheet. So he won the second competition, and then he picked people to compete in the head of household competition, including himself. He picked himself, Ashley, Vince, and I can't remember who the 4th person was. Not important. Vince ended up winning head of household. So Vince is the first head of household. He has to make his nominations. However, that didn't happen last night. They said there's something going on here, and there's another house guest, and it's Rachel, and one of you is not a house guest. One of you is is an accomplice or something. And if the accomplice goes without being detected by a certain day or time or whatever, then they become a regular house guest. But if the house as a whole or a good majority figures out who it is, they get tossed out. So it's kind of like the saboteur, right? Kind of, sort of. Except for she got voted out first and they didn't know she was a saboteur. They just voted her out, but she ended up being the saboteur. So not sure how it's going to work. People think that Rachel's going to play in the game. They think that she's going to be a regular house guest, and that they also think she has immunity this week because she wasn't involved. She didn't get to compete for head of household. We didn't hear any of that. Part 2 will be Tuesday night or Sunday night, right? So part 2 will be Sunday night. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll watch it when it's on and figure it out. But the feeds have not come back, so we don't know more than what I've just told you. I think I've caught the majority of the bits and pieces. So it's fine. It is what it is. Frankly, right now, I'm tired. I'm exhausted, and I just got off a plane, and I'm kind of a tiny bit relieved that there aren't live feeds that I'm missing. I feel bad for people that are missing live feeds, and I'll probably be sick of not having live feeds by Sunday night when we finally get them. But for now, I'm okay with it because I didn't sleep well, and I had to get my butt to the airport, and I did flu standby, which was actually very easy. And I got lucky. I had a better seat on the flight back than I would have if I'd gotten my seat. My seat that I got by flying standby was better than the seat I'd booked. So there's a little tidbit for you. The reason being that they hold back some of their. This is American, and they had seats that have a little extra leg room, right? And they cost a little extra money. Well, there was 4 seats still available on the flight, and so I got one of those seats. I sat down. I'm like, wait, I got more legroom than I'm expecting. And I'm like, oh, I got one of the upgrade seats, but it didn't cost me an upgrade. It was just a regular, they just transferred my seat to that one. So, all right, enough of that. Enough of flying. Most of you fly probably more than I ever do. So the party was fun. It was very similar to the first night last year, which was also a TV show. It was kind of cool to watch the last year's house guests and I've posted this, I've said this, I said it to many of them, to watch them watching the new crop, right? Seeing them up on the screen. They're all sitting there watching it and cheering and chanting and just watching that. We did do a thing. I was so again, Aza runs the parties, and she runs a lot of things, her House of Chops things. But she has help from a guy named Joe Michael in New York, who's been doing it forever. And I know Joe. I've known Joe forever. I hadn't met him in person till last year. But Joe was like, they had like a merchandise table for anybody that wanted to buy some kind of like, Big Brother-ish kind of things. And they had big rubber ducks for sale. And Joe just goes, hey, why don't, we should have to get somebody to sign this rubber duck and you can give it away. It's like, okay. So he's like, who should we have sign it? So I'm the one who said we should have Tucker sign it. I'm the one he said, who should we have sign it? And I just said, look, have Tucker sign it. And that was just my choice, because I just thought I could have been I could have said Chelsea. It would have been Chelsea or Tucker. But I honestly thought Tucker was America's favorite player, right? And so I was like, no, they would have liked either. But I said Tucker, and so, but I told her, I said, we're going to have a beloved house guest sign it, because I was like, what if Tucker says no? But Joe ran up to Tucker and got him to sign it. I took a picture, and I now have this duck in my suitcase, and I don't know what it's going to look like when I get it out, because I packed my suitcase. I didn't have room in my suitcase coming out here, and now I took this big duck in it, and I heard it squeal as I was closing and zipping up my suitcase. So we'll see how it's doing. I'm sure it'll get its shape back eventually. It won't take long. But I told people that I was giving it out to anybody who put a comment last night, basically over 3 hours. I did it at 9 o'clock. I said until midnight Eastern time. I figured that's giving everybody 3 hours. It should have given everybody, even on the West Coast, that was checking things out online to see, I just thought I'll do that much. I don't know. I've had about 80 or 90 people that signed up. I'm sorry if you missed your chance. I'm sorry if you missed the opportunity. This was a very spur of the moment. And frankly, I have now committed myself to having to go through and harvesting these names and putting them in a randomizer or doing a random draw. And then I got to mail it to somebody. Because Joe just said, let's do this. And I'm like, okay. I thought I was going to tell Joe who and he was going to mail it, but Joe handed it to me, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing this. So I've got this rubber ducky. We'll work on it this week. I'm going to try to get it done this week, but I have real life stuff, so we'll see what we can do. Any other moments from the show, from the party last night? I posted a ton of pictures and commentary. There was no, it was just everybody having a good time talking. As I said last night, I stayed till the very end. I stayed till they were basically kicking us out of the bar. They were locking the doors, and some of the people actually said, we're going down here, we're going down this corner and around this, we're going down, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not. There was about, I want to say there was about 5 or 6 of the house guests from different seasons were left. I don't really know who all. I know that Tucker was still there. I think Chelsea might have still been there because they were the kind of the co-host with Aza. Aza was still there. Maybe Christian from Big Brother 23, which I have a tiny story about Christian. And Mimi might have still been there too, because I talked to both Mimi and Christian at the end of the night. That was my last long conversation. And I went up to say hi to Mimi, and she remembered me, and I talked. She says, yes, once I talk some, if we have a decent conversation, I will remember you, got you locked in. And so, yeah, she does. And she is on Blue Sky, and I did at her when I posted her pictures, but it's hard for them to do all those different social media. So I'm not judging anyone at this point that doesn't go on it, but I did at her in my picture. Christian, or just at my comment. And Christian, I had never met before. I got a picture with him earlier in the evening, and then we talked again. He came up to talk to Mimi while I was talking to Mimi, and so he and I started talking, and that was kind of cool because we talked about college basketball. He's a UConn fan, I'm sorry to say, but, and his dad is a teacher, and my wife's a teacher. And his dad teaches ag, and I'm not trying to I don't think I'm giving away anything about, but he teaches ag, and one of my kids was very involved a couple of my kids were very involved in FFA in school. So we kind of had these moments like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I know that. And that's cool. So we had a good conversation. Really, really cool. That's the fun stuff when you talk about stuff that isn't Big Brother related and you kind of connect on a different level. So talked with Mimi about what she does, and she's in Washington, D.C., and what she does there. So very cool. Good time. That's the fun part, because that's when you actually develop real connections with these folks, that you're not talking just about the show, because how many times can they talk about their show? And I feel bad when I just, I really liked you on the show, and I don't want to talk about anything they did, just, well, man, I was rooting for you kind of a thing. So it was fun. I have now approached the rambling stage, and it looks like we're getting into a construction zone. So I am going to sign off, finish up my day, and maybe I'll record another one this weekend. We'll see if we hear any news or if I know anything. But right now I'm getting into a construction zone or an accident, I'm not sure. And I'm going to hang this puppy up and check it out. So thank you all for your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you to my patrons. And we'll talk to you very soon, I'm sure. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.